Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. So with the Freemasonry name, there's a particular theology, a religion, similar to the secret doctrine, Isis Unveiled by Helena Blavatsky, similar to the Kabbalah. Mysticism. And in this mysticism, the religions in general all over the world, there have been these beings, whether divine, goodly, God beings, angels, or demonic, evil entities, interacting with humanity and people of the past. Apparently, even when Jesus went into the wilderness for 40 days, I suppose to be tested, and Satan, there's a demonic being, took him up to the mountaintop and said, if you will bend on your knee to me, I will give you all of this. He was talking about the earthly plane. Earth as we know it, the reality, back then. And Jesus said, no, in my Father's kingdom there are many mansions. So when you have all these conversations about what is real, when you read the Bible, or if you're Arab, Muslim, and you're into the Islamic religion, you read the Quran, or if you're Jewish, you read many of the different Jewish books, the Torah, the Talmud, Zohar, and many others, the Kabbalah, the teachings. You got to figure out what to believe, what's true, what's not true. And I think a lot of people will agree that this new age and new world order doesn't appear to be benevolent. It doesn't seem to have the best interest of mankind at heart. Contraire. It seems like the elites want to take control of the planet and enslave people instead of negotiating with them for workers' rights and freedoms. And it seems that the elites don't want to be involved in that kind of caretaking of humanity. So what is the truth? This is going to be a new book review. Maybe communicating with some beings from another dimension. The Ra material. By Ra, a humble messenger of the Law of One. We hear a lot about the Ra of One. And look on the bottom here, we have Egyptian hieroglyphics. The Ankh there, interestingly enough, the T on the Ankh means divine. The circle on top tells you what's divine. And that circle is supposed to represent a snake, according to the Freemasonic information, morals, and dogma. I made videos on this, and I'll show it. So it's a divine serpent. The Book of Ra, or the Ra material. Thought I'd just get a couple books and show the Ankh on there, the relationship. The New Age magazine by the Scottish writer Freemasonry. I've showed these many a times. I have several of these. But you notice the Ankh on the bottom of the Sphinx, the being, and the snake on his neck, the cobra, the Egyptian hieroglyphics. The pyramid, liberty, equality, fraternity. I don't think that's for the rest of us. The two columns. And I went and got my Morals and Dogma book. Oh, I got it upside down. So you can see my videos on number 41 series. Many hours. But the crux asanta was a particular emblem of Osiris, and his scepter ended in that figure. It was also the emblem of Hermes and was considered a sublime hieroglyphic possessing mysterious powers and virtues as a wonder-working amulet. Page 504, Morals and Dogma. I'm just saying, when I go over this channeled material, I'm moving a little bit further on my chart, completing it. If you want to pause the computer and write down all these names, save yourself a few minutes worth of work if you want to look up this stuff. I left some blank spaces in the middle for more of the nefarious channeled material. I got a lot of stuff here that a lot of people think is positive. New Age stuff. So you can see the chart's getting full. I'll be doing quite a few book reviews on all these different books. I've been doing the Edgar Cayce trance-channeled material. Been reading some more of that today for another video. I've got 2 more of these books coming in the mail. The Pulse of Creation series, Ernest Norman channeled material. Just an interesting book here, because apparently when we think things, we create thought forms. So what can we create with our mind? Remember, everything is electromagnetic creation, even our bodies and DNA and molecules and atoms. So what can we manifest if we knew how to manifest things? I've been making videos on the Book of Enoch, talking about the other invisible world. And Enoch was taken up into the other world. Got several books. And shown around, and it's described quite thoroughly, interestingly. I've been making some videos on those, and I'll be making one more, I think. And then, of course, Helena Blavatsky, the Theophist Society, the Secret Doctrine. I made a video or 2. I have the book Isis Unveiled, and this book. And the beings that Helena Blavatsky were communicating with were called masters. They look like that. And then, of course, I have another book here I made a video on, just to show that, what number was this, 14 on the back there? Psychic self-defense. So let's say you do leave your body, get out there on the astral plane. You might want to beware. And, of course, Aleister Crowley, with his 2 beings that he was communicating with. The author called himself Awas. See the name there? And he made this book here, A Messenger from the Forces Ruling This Earth. at present and will be explained later on. So that'll be interesting for me to make another video on this guy, Aleister Crowley. The Book of the Law. And the law is, do as thou wilt. The second law is, refer to number 1, do as thou wilt. So you can do anything you want. Kind of a evil thing that, and Aleister Crowley was called the evilest man alive for some of the very interesting things he did. So you can look up the creature, Iwas Aleister Crowley, and see what they look like. They look like gray aliens. I made several videos on the Palladians, who are channeled by Barbara Manasek. That would have been series number 60. And of course I made a video or two on the technique of the master, how they recruit people and to train them to be illuminated. And then I'm reading this book right now, that Messengers of Deception, that apparently UFO and aliens aren't who a lot of people are told what they are. If they knew what they were, they might be a little bit concerned, afraid. It's these spiritual beings, these channeled entities. And apparently, even with this book, I've got to make another video or two. The major trends in Jewish mysticism with the Merkabah, which I'm finding out is mentioned many times, even in the channeled Palladian materials. Apparently you take one of those Merkabah crystals or symbols, the one in the center of the screen right now, the bright one, and you rotate it, hold it on a string, and it helps you in meditation to communicate with this other world. That's in Jewish mysticism, and I'm finding out it's in a lot of these channeled people's material. So what the heck are we talking about? The raw material. So I thought what I do is, like I normally do, I go sometimes backwards and forward just to kind of make things interesting. And I did have my book here that I've been creating with all those people that you saw the names on the chart. It's pretty thick now. So I got everybody's name here, Wikipedia page, their own home page, or whatever internet site, or whatever documents I could find. So I've got a lot of reading to do. But today I want to do the book of Ra, or I should say the raw material. And we'll talk about who and what all that is. Here's some pages I showed in an earlier video. The raw material. Okay, so I'm just going to show some of this and try to explain a little bit, and then I have some interesting stuff to read from the raw material, channeled information from beings from another dimension, another plane, another reality, the invisible realm. It says here on the top of this, you can find this on the internet, by the way. Here's the web page on the bottom. These browse by section have all these different readings. So you click any one of these numbers, and then they have also descriptions here if you want to be selective about these channeled readings. I am Ra, the law of one. Though beyond the limitations of name, as you call vibratory sound complexes, approximately by stating that all things are one. So everything is one. So they teach. And remember, this is not my preaching or teaching. I just want to start investigating the secret societies and the information that's being put out there on the many videos that people all over the world are watching, absorbing this new age and new world order material. This one world religion that apparently they're going to try to force on the rest of us. Whether a lot of people will embrace it voluntarily. All things are one, that there is no polarity, no right and no wrong. Well, wait a minute, isn't that Aleister Crowley's teaching, the Book of the Law? Known as the evilest man alive? Just saying. No disharmony, but only identity. All is one, and one is love, light. Light, love, the infinite creator. So when you go watch some of these videos on YouTube, or read the websites, or buy the books, they talk about love. Barbara Manasek, you can watch my videos, talks about love and sex, and the Palladians coming back to Earth to make amends for mistakes they made in the past. Quite interesting. Go watch my videos. I remember making them. I'm going to address Barbara Manasek more. But when she gives a lecture to a room full of people, she has that little Merkaba and it's spinning, and she connects like a telephone call to another dimension, and she says the Palladians are here, the Pixies are here, all these beings. So what are we talking about? Is it a smart thing for we the people to do, to check into this, to have some discriminate thinking? Use discernment, what's right, what's wrong? Are we being deceived again? Like we've been deceived more times than I guess most people can count? World wars, presidents assassinated. So what are they teaching? Who are they? What do they want? Do they plan on depopulating the planet? Yeah, some of the topics in this page I found on the internet, you can look it up. Balancing books, Confederation of Planets, Cosmology, the cosmos, the religion of the cosmos, Earth history, Earth present, Earth energy centers, harvest, I thought. So I went and looked it up. Harvest. What was that all about? I got the pages. So I thought that's what I'd read and discuss it as I go here. In one of the channeled events, somebody went into a trance, whatever, we'll review this some more to find out. And they got this being, Ra, to start talking. They talked about the law of one category harvest. That sounds kind of potentially concerning. Harvest? Harvest what? Harvest we people? Alright, questionnaire. So when you have somebody in a trance like Edgar Cayce, he's in a trance like he's asleep, and there's a questionnaire sitting in a chair taking notes, or a recorder. However they do it. And a lot of times the videos you watch on YouTube and etc., or go to one of these lectures or people personally, the person seems to go up into a trance on stage and starts talking in maybe a strange voice. They leave their body and another entity enters the body. So let's see what this stuff says. Hope you find it as interesting as I did when I read it. Can you say anything about the coming planetary changes? Ra says, I am Ra. I preferred to wait until this instrument had again reached the proper state of depth, of singleness, or one-pointedness before we spoke. So apparently the instrument that he's speaking through, that's why he's speaking, but he says this instrument to this person he's speaking through, called a channeler or a medium, he wanted it to be in a deeper trance. Moving on, the changes are very, very trivial. We do not concern ourselves with the conditions which bring about harvest. Questionnaire. I think it would be appropriate to discover how the law of one acts in this transfer of beings to our planet and the action of harvest. Well, I'd like to know myself. What's the plan here? What is with this new age and new world order? What is it with sky spraying of chemicals? HARP systems, electromagnetic transmitters, mind control. All this seemingly sinister activities going on right now in the world. Questionnaire. I think it would be appropriate to discover how the law of one acts in this transfer of beings to our planet in the action of harvest. Ra, I am Ra, the law of one, states simply that all things are one, that all beings are one. There are certain behaviors and thought forms. You saw the book I just showed you on thought forms. Consonant with the understanding and practice of this law of one. Those who finishing a cycle of experience, so that would be growth in people's souls, demonstrate various grades of distortion of that understanding of thought and action will be separated by their own choice into the vibratory distortion most comfortably to their mind-body-spirit complexes. So that's what he calls our human bodies. A mind-body-spirit complex. So this is a mind-body-spirit complex. So when I read his material in the future, you are a mind-body-spirit complex, according to Ra's description. This process is guarded or watched by those nurturing beings. So there's some nurturing beings watching us, who, being very close to the law of one in their distortions, nevertheless have the distortion towards active service. So I guess whatever I'm doing, speaking right now, would be called a distortion. Thus, the illusion is created of light, or more properly, but less understandably, love light. So they want to use that word love, and they connect it with light. You're going to hear that a lot if you watch channeled information from channelers on YouTube videos or other sources. This is in varying degrees of intensity. The spirit complex of each harvested entity, so I guess if you were taking away from this planet, you would be a harvested entity, moves along the line of light until the light grows too glaring, at which time the entity stops. This entity may have barely reached third density, or may be very, very close to the ending of the third density love light distortion vibratory complex. Nevertheless, those who fall within this octave, octaves are different notes like hitting a piano key, of intensifying love light, then experience a major cycle during which the opportunities are many for the discovery of the distortions which are inherent in each entity, and therefore the lessening of those distortions. I know what you're thinking. Some of that's a little confusing. seems to become a little bit more coherent as I move along. That's why we have to read and do so many of these book reviews to try to get the big picture here. Questionnaire. What is the position of this planet with respect to progression of the cycle at this time? I don't know if you know what the Kali Yuga is, but it's basically a 25,000 year cycle. And the Dark Ages would be down at the bottom, and the Golden Age would be at the top. So you can be in the Golden Age and you can be descending, and then you can reach the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, and then you start ascending into more enlightenment for humanity, the Kali Yuga. I'll get a book and show you a picture. I made a video on this book, The Lost Star of Myth and Time, number 56. I write the numbers on the front of my books or the back. Anyways, I remember, you can go watch that video if you want to learn a little bit about it. But here's a picture. And apparently it shows where we are now down in the bronze. So are we rising from the bronze up towards the silver? That would be growth, if that's where we are. The iron would have been the Dark Ages, when mankind, humanity, was most disconnected from spirit. And again, I'm not trying to preach this. I'm trying to tell you what I read in these books. I'm trying to figure out what the heck's going on the planet. So apparently we just came out of the Dark Ages, the Iron Age. And we're moving up into the Bronze Age to the Silver. And that's supposed to symbolize 25,000 years. And if you look at astrology, we know before Jesus was born was the horoscope sign Aries, which was the ram, which was for the Jewish people. And then when Jesus was born was the fish, the age of Pisces, when Jesus was born. So there was the Jewish period, the Christian period, and now we're going into the age of Aquarius, the water bearer. Just some stuff you, FYI. So it's called the yoga cycle, 24,000 years according to this book. Just saying, when I'm reading from this stuff here, it just behooves us to kind of do some homework to try to understand some of this material, which could be confusing when they talk about cycles. So apparently the Earth, according to a lot of the material you'll see on the YouTube videos and alternate websites, and a lot of the evidence in the main street news now, are preparing for some event. And apparently to bring this event around, they had to do the stuff they did in the last 200 years or and further. World War I, World War II, 9/11, and apparently they have to do World War III to create some kind of purge on the planet, to get rid of maybe the unwanted people who are thinking wrongly. We're not going to go along with this new age, the rainbow agenda, and the destruction of Christianity and the discrediting of Jesus, etc. So again, this battle, it seems, between good and evil. And it just might behoove people to become more aware, and I hope I'm explaining it clearly enough to get some information across. It is confusing. So back to the Law of One, the raw channeled material that you can go look on the internet and find. This process is guarded or watched by those nurturing beings who, being very close to the Law of One in their distortions, nevertheless have the distortion towards active service. Thus the illusion is created of light, or more properly, the less understandable love light. This is in varying degrees of intensity. The spirit complex, the body, of each harvested entity moves along the line of light until the light glows too glaringly, at which time it stops. The entity may be barely reached third density. So apparently Earth is in third density. So when you go to these other planes of existence, there's fourth density, and fifth density, and sixth density. According to this New Age teaching, as horribly as I'm explaining it, it's a very interesting education to try to understand it. But I think I'm getting some of it. Nevertheless, those who fall within this octave of intensifying love light then experience a major cycle during which the opportunities are many for the discovery of the distortions which are inherent in each entity, and therefore lessening in these distortions. I read all that. What is the position of the planet with respect to the progression of the cycle at this time? So we just saw the yoga cycle. Apparently we're coming out of the dark portion, the bottom. Apparently what it is when Earth is closer to some source in the Milky Way galaxy, we all become more enlightened, maybe even increased psychic abilities, super beings. But when we're further from the light, apparently the connection is lost, the intelligence is lost. Just according to what I was reading in that book quite a while ago. I have to remember this stuff. I am Ra, the sphere at this time in fourth dimension vibration. The sphere, Earth, is at this time in fourth dimension. So we're moving out of the third dimension. And we're moving into fourth dimension. And according to what I'm understanding here, that's why Earth is experiencing some rumblings, earthquakes, weather changes, psychological changes in humans. We're moving from third dimension to fourth dimension. According to the teaching, again, this is not my preaching or what I necessarily believe. Its material is quite confused due to the society memory complexes. So society memory complexes, I guess, is what everybody thinks. Our reality is being altered. Like the Mandela effect that was popular not too long ago, where people noticed weird changes in lots of things. Are we moving from one dimension to another? I do my research and try to figure this stuff out. So the social memory complexes are confused because of the information embedded in our consciousness. It has not made an easy transition to the vibrations which beckon. So there are vibrations out there, this fourth dimension, that are beckoning us. Therefore, it will be fetched with some inconvenience. So apparently there'll be some inconvenience through this transition, leaving the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, or this ascension, as David Wilcock and many people are talking about. Questionnaire: is this inconvenience imminent within a few years? So is this transition coming right away? They thought it was going to be here at 2000. Then we all remember 2012. And we see all the political and social and other changes going on in the world. It appears to me people are trying to bring this about. In a way I understand it, you are what you think you are. So if they can convince all of we people of something, maybe we can manifest it. And if they're trying to have us voluntarily manifest something which could be very detrimental to ourselves, in other words, they want to enslave the planet. They don't want the planet or the souls to be free. Just a possibility, plausibility. Are they trying to do good stuff to us right now? Or are they trying to do evil stuff to us? What's with the sky spraying of heavy metals in the sky? The electromagnetic transmitters, HARP, Gwen towers, cell phone towers, and so much more. even pulsing on your TV, your cell phone that you carry. Everything is being turned into one gigantic computer. Like the Borg on Star Trek. Everybody will be assimilated. Is that what's going on? I'm just thinking while I read. I am Ra. So the questionnaire wants to know, is this stuff coming quickly? This inconvenience or disharmonies, vibratory complex, has begun several of your years in the past. So it's already started according to this. Again, not my teaching. It shall continue unabated for a period of approximately 3 or 30 years of your years. So the way I understand it, when you do shift from the age, that's why they have the astrological signs, which there's 12 of them over 24, 25,000 years. There's a lot of people who have different numbers. Each sign is about 2,000 years. But the way I understand it for accuracy, the real complete cycle is 26,000 years. And if there are 13 astrological signs, and they were each issued 2,000 years, that would be 26,000 years. And they tell most of us there's 12 astrological signs. They leave out the 13th one called Orpheus, which, weirdly enough, the symbol is the serpent, the snake. That's a little concerning. So anyways, now with 12 into 26, it's like 2,400, 2,003 something. If you have 12 astrological signs, instead of the real 13 astrological signs, which is a map of the sky. Just saying. Stuff you learn as you go. So apparently when you go from the age of Aries to Pisces, that transition can be a little bit tumultuous. Can be chaotic. It's like the Earth is actually going to go through this storm for about 100 years when it enters one cycle to another. And so we're in the middle of that storm right now, the way I understand it. According to these books and this research I've been doing. So if everybody wonders why is everything a little crazy, because apparently we're in that storm. We entered it back in the 60s or 70s, even when they had that song, The Age of Aquarius. Remember that? So anyways, that was, we were entering that storm. And probably before that. So we've probably been in this storm more than 50 years. So we haven't reached the peak of the storm. Or maybe we have. But we're certainly not coming out of the storm. When you go from one sign to the other, Aries to Pisces, Pisces to Aquarius. And one way to understand it is apparently the Earth, our sun, on the elliptic plane in the galaxy. So it can be even with the elliptic plane, or it goes above it, reaches a peak, goes back to the plane, goes below it, reaches a bottom peak, and goes here again. So you have several concerning points on the elliptic plane, assuming this board behind me is the elliptic plane on that bookcase. Here's the sun carrying the planets. Goes above and below the elliptic plane. So you have a point where you cross the elliptic plane. When you reach the northerly portion, because even the galactic plane has a north and south pole. So you reach the northerly portion, then you cross the elliptic plane again, then you reach the south pole, the southerly portion, because the sun and the earth, it doesn't just sit there in space. It's hurtling while it's carrying the planets behind it. It's like a big shooting bullet, but it doesn't go straight, it goes. So you have these intersections of crossing the elliptic plane, a north portion where it switches, and the southern portion, and remember we're changing polarity and crossing the elliptic plane again. So back to this, just an understanding of what some of this stuff they're trying to explain about, and apparently something to do with some kind of beings out there who are aware of the cycles, and what's that got to do with the Merkaba and Jewish mysticism. You know, the secret societies who know lots of things that they won't share with the rest of us. And even they have to swear on a Bible with having their throat cut under threat of death if they divulge this to us. So all that combined is a little concerning. So anyways, he says this inconvenience or disharmony of the vibratory complex, everything here, Earth is a vibratory machine, it's all electromagnetic, is in the chaotic position now, has entered it already, changing from the age of Pisces, the last 2,000 years, into the age of Aquarius. Questionnaire. After this 30-year period, I am assuming we will be in fourth dimension, or fourth density planet. Is that correct? So in this channeling, they're asking Ra, after we get through this tumultuous period, crossing this barrier, whether it's a peak thing or crossing the ecliptic or whatever, getting closer to Source and further away from Source. The good news, I guess, is if this stuff is true, we're rising in intellect. The bad news is we're in the middle of this huge change, and apparently it's going to be a rough ride. Tell that to the Arabs in the Middle East. 9/11 people, World War I, World War II, and economic destruction, which may happen Monday. They may crash the stock market. Seems like they're trying to bring about some event to make this big change, paradigm shift. So Ra says, this is so. So he says we're in this fourth dimension, or we're approaching it now, and Ra says this is so. Next page. Questionnaire. Is it possible to estimate what percentage of the present population will inhabit the fourth dimension planet? So we're all aware, like the Georgia USA Guidestones, saying they want to have 500 million people on planet Earth. We've got 6 billion now, maybe 7 billion. So they say, which I don't believe. So they plan on doing what they call as a purge, or a population reduction. And apparently, part of the prophecy, or from the Christian religious point of view, you have to swear allegiance to Lucifer and take the mark of the beast to stay alive. All others will be executed. Those who probably don't die in the wars or the plague or whatever happens. Anarchy, chaos, if they crash the economy and everybody goes helter-skelter, trying to kill each other for food, become even cannibals. Who knows? It's kind of bizarre conversation. But this is what this says. It asks the question, so I'm addressing it. What will be the present population to inhabit the fourth density planet? Ra says the harvesting is not yet thus estimated. Estimation is meaningless. Questionnaire. The way I understand the process of evolution of a planetary population is that population has a certain amount of time to progress. This is generally divided into 3 25,000-year cycles, the yoga cycles I talked about. That's why I go to the trouble of showing you the picture and explaining this. At the end of the 75,000 years, 3 yoga cycles, the planet progresses itself. What causes this situation to come about? Precision of the years, 25,000 years, etc. What set this up to begin with? So apparently, as souls and beings on planet Earth, according to this, and people get reincarnated and reincarnated, you've only got so much time, 75,000 years, dozen reincarnations, I don't know. And then you have to go from this third dimension, materialistic reality, into a fourth dimension, which may be some kind of more spiritual reality. I'm theorizing while I'm reading, trying to think and rationalize this stuff. Ra says, I am Ra. Visualize, if you will, the particular energy which, outflow flowing and inward coagulating, I'm saying that wrong, formed the tiny realm particular energy, formed a tiny realm of the creation governed by your council of Saturn. Well, Saturn's supposed to be the symbol for Satan, with the hexagon shape on top. Just things that pop in my brain when I'm reading here. Continue seeing the rhythm of this process. The living flow creates a rhythm which is as inevitable as one of your timepieces. Each of your planetary entities began the first cycle when the energy nexus was able in that environment to support such mind-body experiences. Mind-body experiences. Mind-body is people, humans. Thus, each of your planetary entities is on a different cyclar schedule, as you might call it. The timing of these cycles is a measurement equal to a portion of the intelligent energy. So I guess collectively on Earth, all of us with our intelligence and awareness is a measurable thing, and we can have a certain amount, and another planetary body might have more, and another one might have much less. Takes a little interpreting here, reading the stuff. This intelligent energy offers a type of a clock. The cycles move as precisely as a clock strikes your hour. Thus, the gateway from intelligent energy to intelligent infinity opens regardless of the circumstances on the striking of the hour. Questionnaire. When a graduation occurs, and an entity, or entities, would be an entity, move at the end of a cycle from one planet to another, by what means do they go from one planet to another? So assuming that I'm growing as a soul to a certain measurable level, and apparently different planets out there have different dimensions or growth things, then I would move from Earth to, say, Jupiter, Mars, Venus. So he's asking here, how do we go there? I am Ra. In the scheme of the Creator, the first step of the mind-body-spirit, the human, totality, beingness, is to place the mind-body-spirit complex distortion. So I guess me existing in this space right here is distorting the space right here. Am I just a thought form? Am I just a mass of electromagnetic energy and waves distorting the space around me? David Icke, I guess, would say that we're all in some kind of gigantic hologram. In the proper place of love and light. This is done to ensure proper healing, the complex, and eventual attunement with the totality beingness complex. This takes a very variable length of your time-space. So I guess everybody doesn't grow and evolve to the next dimension at the same time. Some people have to be born many times or less times. And again, I'm theorizing and guessing here what this stuff means. After this is accomplished, the experience of the cycle is dissolved and filtered until only the distillation of distortions in its pure form remains. Did you get that? At this time, the harvested mind-body-spirit, the human, totality beingness evaluates the density needs of its beingness and chooses the more appropriate new environment for either a repeating of the cycle or a moving forward into the next cycle. This is a manner of harvesting, guarded and watched over by many. So apparently when you die and you move on, you got some choices depending upon your level of growth. And apparently there's some beings, watchers, angelic beings, whatever, watching over us. The questionnaire, when the entity is moved from one planet to the next, is he moved in thought or in a vehicle? Ra says, I am Ra, the mind, body, spirit, the human. Totality, beingness, is one with the Creator. There is no time-space distortion. Therefore, so if we're part of the Creator, and we leave our body, there is no time-space distortion, like if I move around, I'm distorting the space around me. Therefore, it is a matter of thinking the proper locus in the infinite array of time-space. So I guess wherever you're going to go, you just have to think it. That's one of the control mechanisms you use when you leave your body. I had an out-of-body experience. Is you see yourself lying on the sofa or whatever, however it happens to different people. I had one friend who traveled a lot for the engineering job he had, and when he got fatigued flying and slept in the local hotel bedroom, he left his body quite often. But anyways, if you want to go someplace specific, you're supposed to just think it, and your spirit goes there while your body stays in the bed. It's probably part of the process of intentional out-of-body by remote viewing. Questionnaire. You said that entities from Maldek might go to... So I think Maldek is a planetary body that blew up. Some may go to fourth density negative. So apparently you can go to a fourth density positive heaven, or a fourth density negative, something like describing hell. Are there people who go out of their present third density to places in the universe and serve, which are fourth density, self-service, or negative type of planets? So apparently if you live your life on Earth right now, and remember we just went over that material, Alice Bailey in the Reappearance of the Christ, and if you remember that material, and I'll be doing more videos from that book, and you listen to some of this and some of these other channeling information books I go over, and people, you're going to notice some common denominators. So people can do service to others, or can do service to self and be selfish. And apparently that what measurement and what creates the situation where you go after you die. Whether you're service to self or service to others. Service to others, you go to some positive place. And service to self, you go to some other place, apparently negative. Whatever anybody wants to interpret that as. That's what it says here. Ra says, your question is unclear. Please restate. Questionnaire. As our cycle ends and graduation occurs, is it possible for anyone to go from this third density to a fourth density planet that is a self-service type or negative type? So I guess he's trying to say if somebody's evil, are they going to go to a fourth density planet? I'm curious about the answer to this question. Ra says, I am Ra. We grasp now the specificity of your Curie. Need some water. We grasp now the specificity of your Curie. I have a slight speech impediment on some letters. Strangely enough, I can learn how to speak languages. Si hablo español, sprechen Sie Deutsch. But I have a huge problem sometimes with English. Strange. Alright, as our cycle ends and graduation occurs, so you were reincarnated 10 times, and you've reached that point where you have to move on. Is it possible for anyone to go from this third density to a fourth density planet that is a self-service type or negative type? So is it possible for an evil person to get to the fourth density? We now grasp the specificity of your query. In this harvest, the probability, possibility, vortex indicates and harvests those small of this type that is correct. Let's not forget that these people on Earth right now, the secret societies, even with CERN opening up portals, Project Montauk opening up portals, pushing children through their electromagnetic vortexes. There's a lot I have to go over in these videos I'm making. Stuff I've already gone over. If you watch past videos, some of them will make more sense if you pay attention to this stuff. What is reality? The questionnaire, what is the density level of our planet Earth at this time? That's kind of an important question. Ra, I am Ra. That's what it says here each time. The sphere upon which you dwell is third density. In its beingness of mind, body, spirit complexes. So apparently all of we humans together are just one being. And we are measurable at a level of intelligence and growth. The whole planet is a living being, according to this stuff. Again, this isn't Rick trying to say this teaching. This is some kind of entity channeling this information to somebody who's requesting the information. And apparently, according to my chart here, we got a lot of channelers out there throughout history. So we've got a little bit of material to go over. And I'm sure when I get into about 10 of these channeled entities, these famous people, we'll probably know a little bit more then as we keep on reading this material. Research and study. All right, moving on. So is planet Earth, what density is it right now? The sphere upon which you dwell is third density. In its beingness of mind, body, spirit complexes. It is now in a space-time continuum, fourth density, thus is causing a somewhat difficult harvest. So again, third density going into fourth density. Are we in this change right now? And we know we're leaving the age of Pisces and entering the age of Aquarius. The big million-dollar question is when did we enter it? When do we get out of it? And what happens while you're in it? And where will we be when we get out of it? What will be the reality of the Aquarius age? Questionnaire, how does a third density planet become a fourth density? Ra says, I am Ra. This will be the last full question. The fourth density is, as we have said, as regularized in its approach as the striking of a clock. So we saw the yoga cycle. It's like a clock. Upon the hour, the space-time of your solar system has enabled this planetary sphere to spiral into the space-time of a different vibrational configuration. So I wonder when you move in this different position around the galaxy, and you go from the elliptic plane, the sun carrying the planets, to a northerly position, and the galaxy has a polarity, and then back through the elliptic plane, and then to the southern polarity. I wonder if this moving into these different positions changes the physics of Earth. It might, you know, what the behavior of molecules in the electromagnetic spectrum, even the cells in our body. Again, using my brain, asking questions. This causes the planetary sphere to be able to be molded by these new distortions. So apparently if we're moving into this other fourth dimension, or fourth density, apparently some kind of new reality can be molded. And remember with the videos on YouTube, David Wilcock and all these people, Galactic Federation, there's some kind of earthly ascension taking place. That's why I'm going over this stuff. However, the thought forms of your people during this transition period are such that the mind-body-spirit complexes, the human bodies, of both individual and societies are scattered throughout the spectrum instead of becoming able to grasp the needle, shall we say, point the compass in one direction. So apparently, all of we humans on planet Earth, if we had a magnetic effect, let's say we could all polarize as north, and we had a compass and it would point towards us. But if we were all differently polarized, different religions, some people believing in God, some worshiping the devil, some practicing Satanism, apparently, I'm just translating here, that means we have different polarities, and we're in different frequency levels in the spectrum of human existence. So if you had a compass for that, it would probably be flickering all around. It's saying here that the grasp the needle, so there's a problem right now with it becoming to focus. And maybe that's why they want to bring about World War III, to create a worldwide forced focus. The Luciferian age. And, you know, people who are Christians and other good people, not just the Christian religion, let me get that clear. You know, maybe we do ascend, whether they kill us or not, the soul doesn't get killed, and we move on, and maybe a lot of the negative types will stay here and a new reality will exist. Like the Hunger Games movie. Alright, back to this thing. Thus, the entry into the vibration of love, sometimes called by your people the vibration of understanding. So they're calling the vibration of love, which a lot of people kind of gravitate towards too. Created a whole new culture of New Age in the world right now. But the true interpretation is a vibration of understanding. And my opinion is somebody's leading all of us down the garden path to our doom. Everybody's being beguiled. Like the Pinocchio movie. He's walking along and the two animals, a cat and a coyote, whatever they were, say, Pinocchio, come to the island, the festival, the cotton candy. And he goes. Well, what happens? They take him to the back of the island and he gets enslaved. So people who want this new age and new world order do not understand, in my opinion, of the end game. Watch the movie Hunger Games, Divergent, so many others. There is a mind control thing going on right now. An intentional destruction of Christianity, etc. Apparently it's on a totally different realm of thinking than most of us ever ponder, contemplate. Thus the harvest shall be that many will repeat the third density cycle. So a lot of people are not going to get off planet Earth. And I mean by their souls when they die. The energies of your wanderers, your teachers, and your adepts at this time are all bent upon increasing the harvest. However, there are few to harvest. So apparently the secret society or wanderers, teachers, or adepts are bent upon increasing the harvest. And again, is that a positive thing or a negative thing? I can have my own interpretation. You can go to this website of the Law of One info and try to analyze it yourself, which I encourage, please. And there's a comment section below. Leave a nice comment if you agree or disagree. I'm just telling you, these channelers are out there, the websites are out there, the books are out there. Barbara Manasek is teaching this stuff. I've read these books. I don't agree with what the Palladians tell her. You can have arguments with people. Oh no, they're teaching love. Vibration of understanding. Maybe that's what they need to be told what the word love means to them. Questionnaire. Would there be any value to the people of this planet now, at this time, to complete this machine? Ra says, I am Ra. The harvest is now. This is not, at this time, any reason to include efforts along these distortions towards longevity, but rather to encourage distortions towards seeking the heart of self. For this, which resides clearly in the violet ray energy field, will determine the harvesting of each mind, body, spirit. So if you know anything about the chakra system, the violet color is here. Wheels of light. This is this New Age stuff. The mind, body, spirit. You've seen that I've used the pendulum before. Something interesting to note. I'll point out something interesting. If you take a pendulum and you put it over somebody's head, it turns a certain way. It's called a polarity. What's interesting, for men, it turns to the right. Not all men. Some men turns to the left. But most men. And if you put it over women, it turns in the opposite direction. We're all polarized beings. That I have no doubt. And you can even do it with your hand. You ask your mind to show you the polarity, and it's turning counterclockwise. And I flip my hand over, it's turning clockwise. So even my hand is like a AAA battery. Has a positive pole and a negative pole. That's how your muscles in your body work. Even your joints, different parts of your body, your knee, your foot. This is fascinating stuff to research about the mind-body-spirit complex. What we are. And the aura field around our bodies. So I study all this stuff. I'm not afraid of looking into it. So it says here, resides clearly in the violet ray energy field, which determine the harvesting of each mind, body, spirit. So apparently, just like when you look at people's auras to see how healthy they are, if they have a nice blue or green aura about them, they're healthy. But if they have a yellow or red, even with spikes in it, they're an unhealthy person. And apparently, when you're a real good person, service to others, your whole aura can glow gold or white. Almost like an angelic being. So maybe, you know, who knows how this works? The spirit, the soul. Questionnaire, the trauma, I'll just call it that. I assume this will, as the cycle ends, have some inconvenience. There will be some entities who start seeking or get catalyzed, you might say, into seeking. So some people might get motivated into seeking because of the trauma. So when things get more tumultuous in our reality, more people might be more motivated to turn into those bright light or gold beings so they can ascend into another realm. This is what this is saying. Again, not what I'm trying to teach as material. I'm trying to understand what the New Age teaches. And, you know, what's the deception? Of course, I have faith in God and Jesus, so I'm not worried. I know where my mind is at. I know that I make mistakes, and I try to be a good person. And it's in a very complex world where you have to strive to survive. Things can become very difficult, confusing, to say the least. Watching the TV programming is enough to drive people a little bonkers. The viciousness, the blood, the gore these days. So as the trauma increases, some people might be motivated, I'm paraphrasing, and then maybe hear your words through possibly telepathy or written materials such as we will publish in this book. So they were doing the readings, contacting this being who calls itself Ra, and they published the book. You can go, just got this in the mail. You can go online and read the stuff. Alright, Ra says, I am Ra. You are correct, except in the understanding that the inconveniences have begun. So, the questionnaire was saying, when the trouble starts, are people going to get motivated and try to change? And Ra says, the inconveniences, the trouble's already begun. Questionnaire. Is there a harvest of entities oriented towards service to self, like there is a harvest here of entities oriented to service to the others? So when there is this harvest of souls off of earth, he's asking, is there a harvest of evil people as well as there is a harvest of good people? Ra says, I am Ra. There is one harvest. Those able to enter fourth density through vibrational complex levels may choose the manner of their further seeking of the one Creator. Questionnaire. Then as we enter the fourth density, will there be a split? Shall we say, part of the individuals will go into the fourth density, will go to the planets or places where there is service to others, and will the other part will go into places where there is service to self? So if there's going to be this huge change, physics, quantum physics, spiritual, molecular change on the whole earth. You know, they talk about planet Nibiru, planet X, Nemesis, all this doom and gloom stuff we see in the news, global warming. What is it all? Is it all some kind of preparation for the mind or something they're going to do? So the question is, are some people going to be harvested here and some people harvested there? All right. Ra says that is correct. So there will be, we'll go to planets where there are people service to others, and the other people who are service to self, not good people, will go to another place where there's other bad people, if you want to describe them as that. Of course, Aleister Crowley's channeled material says there's no such thing as evil. Do as thou wilt. If you want to go murder and rob somebody and steal all their stuff, go do it. If that's what makes you happy. We'll go into that stuff. A lot of people don't want to believe there's evil or sin. This is what the New Age teaches. Got to pay attention to what they teach. Questionnaire. I am assuming that it is not necessary for an individual to understand the law of one to go from third to fourth density. Is this correct? So they're asking the question, does a person have to be aware of the law of one to move into fourth dimension? Ra says, I am Ra. It is absolutely necessary that an entity consciously realize it does not understand in order for it to be harvestable. Understanding is not of this density. So apparently nobody can understand this whole process. Questionnaire. That is a very important point. I used the wrong word. What I meant to say was, I believe that it was not necessary for an entity to be consciously aware of the law of one to go from third to fourth density. So you don't have to be aware of it if you could be aware of it. And Ra says, I am Ra. That is correct. I guess you just have to be, as the biblical teachings, a good person. By some measurable scale, like I said, one way, if you have looking at auras with colors, if you were to be able to see auras and somebody was intending to bring a bomb aboard a plane, you would recognize the aura immediately. If you had a psychic there at the airport, it would be strikingly torn with red and yellow colors maybe, and spears of little light beams shooting out of the person. It would look like it was trouble, because it would be trouble. And somebody else who was harmonious and loving would be boarding the plane, might have a veil around them, an aura that was almost purple or gold or white. Normal person would probably be blue or green. Somebody dying, almost going to die within the next few minutes, would have a very faint aura you couldn't see. Just saying, things you think about when you're reading. Little entertainment here, sidebar knowledge. Okay, so the next question is, questionnaire, thank you very much. I wish to say again, consider it an honor, a great honor, and also a privilege. So he's complimenting Ra for answering the questions. And I would like to reiterate that my questions may sometimes be a little off because I keep going on something that I had already started to work into the applications of the law of one to better understand primarily the free will principle and the further distortions that we discover. I got 3 questions just now in meditation. I'll ask them first before we continue. First, we are now in the 4th density. Will the effects of the 4th density increase in the next 30 years? Will we see more changes in our environment and our effect upon our environment? So there we go with this sustainability, biodiversity. Will we see more changes in our environment and effect upon our environment? Ra, I am one. No, Ra, I am Ra. The 4th density is a vibrational spectrum. Your time-space continuum has spiraled your planetary sphere and your what we call galaxy, what you call star, into this vibration. So I suppose the whole galaxy actually moves too. This will cause the planetary sphere itself to electromagnetically realign its vortices of reception of the in-streaming of cosmic forces expressing themselves as a vibrational webs, so that the Earth will thus be 4th density magnetized, that you might call it. Wow. Ra says, this is going to occur with some inconvenience. You think? As we have said before, due to the energies of the thought forms of your peoples, which disturb the orderly constructs of energy patterns within your Earth spirals, of energy which increases entropy and unusable heat. So apparently there's going to be friction with this change on Earth, and it's going to have some unusable heat. I suppose that would cause some problems. Global warming? Interesting conversation, do you think? This will cause your planetary sphere to have some ruptures in its outer garment. So the surface of the Earth is going to rock and roll, I guess. Volcanoes, earthquakes. While making itself appropriately magnetized for 4th density. This is the planetary adjustment. So how do you like this channeled material so far? The law-of-one.info. You will find a sharp increase in the number of people, as you call mind-body-spirit complexes, whose vibrational potentials include the potential for 4th vibrational distortions. So I guess some people will turn into angels or something, other beings, and ascend. According to this, again, not my teaching. Big difference there. I'm just trying to understand what they teach. I'll form my own opinions, eventually. Thus there will seem to be, shall we say, a new breed. So these new beings are going to be like a new type of human being. Who would have thought about that? Looks like they're already doing it. These are those incarnated for fourth density work. There will be a sharp increase in the short run of negatively oriented or polarized mind-body-spirit complexes and social complexes due to the polarizing conditions of the sharp delineation between fourth density characteristics and the third density self-service orientation. Hope you understood that. Those who remain in fourth density upon this plane will be of the so-called positive orientation. Many will come from elsewhere, for it would appear that with all the best efforts of the Confederation, again, we're talking about this confederation of aliens, galaxies, which includes those from your peoples and inner planes, inner civilizations, and those from other dimensions, the harvest will still be much less than that which this planetary sphere is capable of comfortably supporting in service. Wow, so they're talking about these other entities, peoples from our planet here, people on the inner planes, inner civilization, people in the earth, under the earth, and those from other dimensions. So we get this UFO alien conversation going again. The harvest will still be much less than that which this planetary sphere is capable of comfortably supporting in service. Questionnaire. I would like to make a point clear, now that I am sure of myself. People of this planet, following any religion, or no religion at all, or having no intellectual knowledge of the law of one, or of anything at all, can still be harvested into the fourth dimension, density, if they are of that vibration. Is this not correct? So I guess if you have that vibration, that qualifies you to graduate. Ra says, I am Ra. That's what it says in every paragraph here when he talks. This is correct. However, you will find few who are harvestable, whose radiance does not cause others to be aware of their, what you may call, spirituality. The quality of the mind-body-spirit complex, the human being. Distortion. Thus, it is not particularly probable that an entity would be completely unknown to his immediate acquaintances as to their unusual radiant personalities. Even were this individual not caught up in any of the distortions of your so-called religious systems. So it looks like the pickings will be slim to get into fourth density. Questionnaire. You spoke of the alleviation of karma being forgiveness. I'm having a hard time phrasing this question. I think I'll have to come back to it. I'll ask this other question. Can you tell me why the Earth will be fourth density positive instead of fourth density negative after the cycle is complete, since it seems that there is a greater negative population? Wow. That's an interesting question. So if we do have a lot of negative people thinking only about themselves largely all over the planet, how can we turn into a fourth density positive planet? Something like heaven with angels and clouds, and however it's described. Ra, I am Ra. The Earth seems to be negative. That is due to the quiet, shall we say, horror, which is the common distortion which those good or positively oriented entities have towards the occurrences which are of your time, space, present. So a lot of us are aware of all the killing in the Middle East and the greedy folks, wealthy elites having trillions and people getting poorer and homelessness and intentional economic and other destruction towards humanity. And apparently all the good people see it and are struck with horror, at least spiritually, and that seems to create a negative appeal or appearance of earth. I'm interpreting this. However, those oriented and harvestable in the ways of service to others greatly outnumber those whose orientation towards service to self has become that of the harvestable quality. So apparently to him here, Ra, there are more good people than bad people, so Earth will turn into a positive fourth density planet. Just reading and thinking. Stuff I would have never thought about. Questionnaire. In other words, there will be fewer negative entities being harvested into fourth density than there will be positive. Is this correct? So when the planet does make a change, the negative entities, people who are selfish and do bad things, Pizzagate, Illuminati types, evil people, they won't go for the ride. They'll be cast out there someplace on a negative planet. Ra says, I am Ra. This is correct. The great majority of your peoples will repeat third density. So a lot of people are not even going to go to fourth density. According to these Ra channeled information paragraphs I'm reading. Questionnaire. Am I to understand that the harvest will occur in the year 2011? Or will it be spread? Ra, I am Ra. This is an approximation. We have stated we have had difficulty with your time-space. This is an appropriate, probable, possible time-space nexus for harvest. So people are predicting it's going to happen this December 2017. Of course, they had predicted it last year, and the last year, and the last year, and so on. Those who are not in incarnation at this time will be included in the harvest. So people who have died, who are not alive, will be harvested wherever they go. Good ones go to a positive 3-dimension, 4-dimension, 5-dimension, density, whatever the word you want to use. Questionnaire, thank you very much. I don't wish to take up extra time by asking questions over again. Some are so important I try to ask some similar questions in different ways to expand on the answer. Seems to be what are we getting at or maybe not. That's what it says here. In the book OAHSPE, OSHAP, it states that if an individual is more than 50% for others, that is, goes over the 50% service to others, and is less than 50% to service to self, then he is harvestable. Is this statement correct? So again, with the pendulum, if you go study this stuff, they got something called will and gut. One is the mind and one is the spirit, will and gut. And you can take a picture of a person and you can say, show me this person's will. And it's going off this way. This is to the right. So that would be a positive will. And I'm thinking of somebody, I'm not going to say the name. Show me their will. And it goes off to the left. Previous president. Most likely, all the previous presidents will go off to the left negative. So your degree of will can be positive or negative. And it's measurable if you want to use your intuitive psychic self. And the will, if you want a simple description, let's say Joe graduates from high school. And he finds a job as a busboy at a restaurant, moves up to server, and eventually makes it to the kitchen. And he's happy with his whole life. Good guy, but just didn't want to be somebody great. So he has a positive will. He supported his family, paid his bills, but it was not strong will. So if you measured it with a pendulum, it would be over here somewhere. You get somebody else who wants to be a minister or something, or a politician. And they really want to change the planet, and they want good things to happen, and they're serious. And their will would be closer to the top. This is perfect will. So they would be up here. They didn't want to just be a restaurant worker or somebody who works for the city or whatever. They wanted more. Maybe a famous artist or an actor. But they were positive thinking, service to others. They weren't selfish, mean people. Just a little bit of sidebar information. You can measure it with a pendulum. Psychics can do this. But on the other hand, if somebody has a negative will, somebody wants to be the leader of the mafia, joins the witchcraft and wants to sacrifice somebody, be involved in a human sacrifice, and they want to be the leader of the witches' coven, then they have, this is perfect will, so they have almost perfect negative will. And somebody else is just a petty thief and doesn't want to be honest to anybody, but he doesn't do too much harm. He's got negative will, but he's way down here. He doesn't want to be the leader. He just wants to be one of the grunt workers. So you can have negative will, and it's all measurable, and it has a spectrum. And you can have positive will. So I would imagine that if I were to measure, if Jesus' will, I'm just using this as an example, not trying to be religious, then it would be probably perfect to the right, positive, and Lucifer's would be perfect to the left, negative. So you can take a picture of the person, and you can after you practice. There's books on this, I read them. So I'm just reading this and thinking about it. So that's the will of a person. And then their soul, their spirit inside. You can measure that too, and it has the same measurements of positive and negative. The stuff I've read, and so when I'm reading some of this, it's just interesting to remember some of the New Age and stuff, material I studied back in 2005 and 6, when I was discovering a lot of the biographies of famous engineers, scientists. That's where I got involved in this. I was only trying to research energy in a practical sense, electromagnetic energies or whatever, quantum physics. As a engineering scientific guy, as I was, worked 10 years at a major aerospace company. So I wanted to maybe help do something with my life, solve some of the energy problems. So I started collecting books on these famous scientists, and I found out they were all psychic, or had psychic abilities when they were young. Common denominator. I've mentioned this in previous videos. That was like 75 plus or minus %. Nikola Tesla, Newton, Michelangelo, they all had this spiritual thing. And usually their parents, or they were involved with the church and their parents were ministers or preachers. They were into praying. Isn't that interesting? And they were spiritually connected to this other realm, and they did great things. That's what I discovered trying to read books by well-known, famous scientists and people like that. Because I felt that the colleges and the educational system we live in today, that they were hiding something. After I worked 10 years at a major aerospace company, had an electronic technology degree. So I stumbled on this pendulum stuff by accident, dowsing, finding water. That's how they used to find gold and tin. Even lost people. Forest rangers now will call up a psychic and give them a map and a picture, and the psychic will hold the pendulum over the map until it starts gyrating. Then they'll draw a little X on the map, and the forest rangers will send a helicopter out there, and there the people will be. And I've got the books behind me, and I've shown them in previous videos, and you can look them up on the internet. So I'm just saying, there is this thing about people being service to self, being selfish, or service to others who care about people. And apparently, there is a place you go after this life, biblically speaking. But of course, with the we're all people who make mistakes. We live in a very tumultuous world where we have to survive, and we make mistakes. We lie to people, say things that are not true, or gossip, or whatever. Just an interesting thing to think about. Now, we know that apparently there is this effort, all the politicians are saying it, even the Pope, a one world currency, a one world order. There's all this craziness going on. This series is called Freemasonry and Satanism. Got hundreds of hours of evidence that these people have been up to no good, caused a lot of pain and suffering on the planet. So something's coming about really soon. So I take the time to try to dig into this stuff, get to the nitty-gritty, find out what they're thinking, what the New Age is preaching and telling. So I got to go over a lot of these names on this list I have. You start getting some of their books, the ones I don't already have. I've already done some, like the Palladians, or Edgar Cayce. And now I'm doing this book. Just printed out some stuff off the internet. So the negative path is quite difficult. So let me finish this document up. So he's questioning this. In the OAHSPE, it states that if an individual is more than 50% for others, so I just showed you the measurement, so if in your life you're 50% helping other people and not 100% selfish, that is, goes over the 50% service to others, is there some measurement that they use? And is less than 50%, is it just at that mark right there? All these people go to the negative, don't graduate, stay in third density. These others go into fourth density. Just trying to get the question clear. So somebody's less than 50%. Is he harvestable? Is this statement correct? Ra says, I am Ra. This is correct if the harvesting is to be for the positive fourth dimensional level. Questionnaire. What must be the entity's percentage, the human being, shall we say, if he is to be harvested for the negative? Harvested for the negative. Ra, I am Ra. The entity who wishes to pursue the path of service to self, must attain a grade of 5. That is 5% service to others, 95% service to self. So somebody has to be pretty darn evil intentionally to be harvested. Strangely enough, that's part of the Sabbatai Zevi, the Jewish guy who in 1666 called himself the Messiah, and came up with a separate set of commandments that are opposite of Moses' 10 commandments. Instead of thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, it's thou shalt steal, thou shalt kill. And apparently part of these people's religion is they have to do something evil every day. That's part of their religion. So I'm reading this, and if you want to be harvested, you've got to be 95% evil. It must approach totality, be total. The negative path is quite difficult to attain harvestability upon and requires great dedication. I'll have to show you this to believe what it says here. Where my finger is. course, you can go look it up. So what is it with this, these evil Satanists? Do they really have to be, and are they aware of this? Do they believe they can be harvested, if that's the word you want to use? And they have to be completely dedicated to being evil. Imagine me when I was reading this and discovered this. All right, let me try to finish this page. Crazy stuff, you think? Why is the negative path so much more difficult a path to attain harvestability upon that other than the positive? So I guess you got the question there. Why is it so hard for evil people to be harvested? Ra, I am Ra. This is due to the distortion of the law of one, which indicates that the gateway to intelligent infinity may be a gateway at the end of a straight and narrow path, as you may call it. To attain 51%, dedication to the welfare of other selves is as difficult as attaining a grade of 5% dedication to other selves. Wow. So it's pretty difficult to become 51%, more than 50% service to others. According to this, make it clear again, that's not what I'm preaching. Jesus said, whoever shall believe in me shall be saved. I believe that. The, shall we say, sinkhole of indifference is between those two. Questionnaire. Well then, if an entity is harvested into fourth density, with a grade, let's say 51% for others, and 49% for self, what level of the fourth density would he go into? I'm assuming there are different levels of fourth density. I am Ra. That is correct. Each enters the sub-density, which vibrates in accordance with the entity's understanding. Wow. I remember reading in the psychic research books when they were doing seances and communicating with people who had died. And when they contacted somebody who was a rather not nice person in real life, and they said, what's your environment? Where are you? And the person would say, it's horrible. I don't like it here. The sun never shines. So I'm reading the psychic research material, and it's in previous videos of mine. And people like a doctor who would even go into people's houses who had no money and help them, and dedicated his whole life to service to others. When he was contacted in a seance, where are you? How is it? Oh, I love it. It's beyond unbelievable. I wish I could come back to Earth and be alive to tell you. So I was reading the psychic research material, and you know, I got this aha moment. I said, man, people ought to read this stuff. So I guess it does matter. Just reading this, using my brain again. All right. Each enters the sub-density, according to Ra, which vibrates in accordance with the entity's understanding. Questionnaire. At this time, near the end of the cycle, how are reincarnations into the physical allocated? Shall I say, on this planet, Ra, I am Ra. Entities wishing to obtain critically needed experience in order to become harvestable are incarnated with priority over those who will, without too much possible doubt, need to re-experience this density. So apparently people who are entities, humans, wishing to obtain critically needed experience in order to become harvestable, so I guess people who want their souls to graduate, are incarnated with priority over those who will, without too much probable possible doubt, need to re-experience this density. Questionnaire: how long has this been going on, this type of allocation? Ra, I am Ra. This has been going on since the first individual entity became conscious of its need to learn the lessons of this density. This was the beginning of what you call a seniority by vibrations. Seniority by vibrations. So this is the law of one stuff. I copied this page off of the internet. Copyrighted 1982. I don't want to read the whole book or nothing. Go buy the book. Let's give credit where credit is due if you want. Go look at the website. It appears to be there. It's free. So I just wanted to introduce people into this stuff, this thinking, what they're thinking. Because we need to be aware. What is this new age? What do they think? What do they want us to not think? I highlighted a couple pages here. I'll read that and finish this video. Some stuff I just randomly opened the book. Alright, page 116. Session 2, January 28th, 1981. Wow. Where was I in 1981? I think I was doing my first year working at a major aerospace company. Questionnaire. You said yesterday that Maldek was destroyed due to warfare. So that was a planet, apparently, that was destroyed. If Maldek hadn't destroyed itself due to warfare, would it have become a planet that evolved in self-service, and would the entities involved have increased in density and gone on to, say, fourth density in the negative sense or in the sense of self-service? So apparently it was destroyed. The planet was self-service. Ra, I am Ra. The planetary social memory complex, Maldek, had in common with your own sphere the situation of a mixture of energy direction. Thus it, though unknown, would most probably have become a mixed harvest, a few moving into fourth density, a few moving towards fourth density. So some would move in fourth density, some would be moving toward fourth density in service to self, a great majority repeating third density. This is approximately due to the fact that the parallel possibilities probability vortices cease when the action occurs and new probability possibility vortices are begun. Questionnaire. Is there a planet opposite our sun in relation to us that we do not know about? There's a lot of talk about a planet behind the sun that keeps itself exactly opposite of the Earth. Ra, I am Ra. There is a sphere in the area opposite your sun of a very, very cold nature, but large enough to skew certain statistical figures. This sphere should not properly be called a planet, as it is locked in its first density. Wow. So we're in third density, according to this stuff. Three-dimensional planet Earth. So this thing behind the sun is in first dimension. Questionnaire. You say that entities from Maldek might go to fourth density negative. Are there people who go out of our present third density to places in the universe and serve, which are fourth density self-service negative types of planets? Ra, I am Ra. Your question is unclear. Please restate. Questionnaire. So I'm reading from the book now. A little bit of material. Questionnaire, as our cycle ends, so as Earth's cycling ends, and graduation occurs, is it possible for anyone to go from our third density to fourth density to a fourth density planet that is of a self-service or negative type? Ra, I am Ra. I get worn out after a while here talking. We grasp now the specificity of your query. In this harvest, the probability possibility vortex is an harvest, though small, of this type. That is correct. Question: can you tell me what happened to Adolf Hitler? Crazy stuff in this material. Ra, I am Ra. The mind-body-spirit complex, the human, known as Adolf, is at this time in the healing process in the middle astral planes of your spherical force field. So he's above the earth in some kind of force field, electromagnetic force field. I'm just thinking, trying to understand what it's saying. It says it's above the sphere in a spherical force field. This entity was greatly confused, and although aware of the circumstances of change in vibratory level, association with the cessation of the chemical body complex, nevertheless needed a great deal of care. Wow. Questionnaire: is there anyone in our history who is commonly known who went to a fourth density self-service or negative type of planet, or anyone who will go there? So if I guess we're going to the next evolution of growth, I guess the last place you would want to go would be to fourth density negative. Ra, I am Ra. The number of entities thus harvested is small. However, a few have penetrated the 8th level, which is only available from the opening up to the 7th through the 6th. Penetration into the 8th, or intelligent infinity, allows a mind-body-spirit complex to be harvested if it wishes at any time, space cycle. Space-time during the cycle. Just reading a little portion here. I just flipped this open a couple places and saw a couple things that jumped out at me. Questionnaire: are any of these people known in the history of our planet by name? People who have been harvested? Ra, I am Ra. We will mention a few. The one known as Taras Bulba, the one known as Genghis Khan, and the one known as Rasputin. Wow. A couple of interesting names. Questionnaire: how did they accomplish this? Was it necessary for them to accomplish this? What was necessary for them to accomplish this? Ra, I am Ra. All the aforementioned entities were aware, through memory, of Atlantean understandings having to do with the use of various centers of mind-body-spirit complex energy, influx, in attaining the gateway to intelligent infinity. Wow. Alright, this other one page here, only reading this much here. You can go look up this information on the Ra website, www.lawofone.info, and they give you all the specifics. Just thought we'd talk about some of the thinking here. Questionnaire: have there been any other books that you can name that are available for this purpose that have been given by the Confederation? So, are there any books that have been channeled to give people more information about our reality? I'm translating. Ra, I am Ra. We cannot share this information, for it would distort your discernment patterns in your future. You may ask about a particular volume. So Rod didn't want to mention all the material that we're giving by these Confederation of Planets, whatever, spiritual entities. Again, I'm not trying to teach this stuff. I'm doing my own research and sharing it in these videos. We all want to open our minds and see what's going on in our reality. What do these secret society and organizations think? What is this New Age? What is it with the rainbow agenda? The New Age using the rainbow? The secrets, the activities going on Earth. Why do they want to eliminate Christianity, discredit Jesus? Why in the future does it appear there'll be this forced allegiance to Lucifer? And I've got books, we'll go over it. Got a whole long chart here full of channelers, people who have deceased, who are famous, people who are alive today. You can go on YouTube videos and type in channeling and start listening. Don't believe everything they say. There does seem to be an agenda. Questionnaire: who transmitted the Uranta book? U-R-A-N-T-I-A. So I believe I have that book. I've got to try to find it. But I did print out some pages here on it. I'll be going over that too. I am Ra. This was given by a series of discarnate entities. Some entities who had died. Of your own earth planes, the so-called inner planes. This material is not passed by the council. Confederation, council, what's out there? Questionnaire: who spoke through Edgar Cayce? We've been going over that material. I am Ra. No entity spoke through Edgar Cayce. Questionnaire. Where did the information come from that Edgar Cayce channeled? Ra. I am Ra. We have explained before that the intelligent infinity is brought into intelligent energy from 8th density to, or octave, like hitting a key on a piano. Different vibration, different frequency level. The one sound vibratory complex called Edgar. So I guess I would be a one sound vibratory complex called Rick. Use this gateway to view the present, which is not the continuum you experience, but the potential social memory complex of this planetary sphere. The term your peoples have used for this is the Akashic Records, or the Hall of Records. This is the last question which you may now ask. So Edgar Cayce wasn't channeling anybody. He was leaving his body, or however, and accessing some Hall of Record called the Akashic Records. Very interesting. So I just thought it would be interesting to review all these channelers or people who go into trances and get information and feed it to the people, which seems to be very popular right now. In the meantime, they're trying to destroy decency and family values and Christianity. Even the Muslim, Arab, Islamic peoples, nations and countries are all being destroyed and bombed. It looks like they plan on a new world order, and it looks like we're going to go through some tumultuous times to get there for this world that some entities want to bring about. The question is, as we've been reading in these materials, are the forces that control our planet, are they intentionally negative? Is that what kind of world they want? And so if they are, what are we positive people to do about it? What are we to think? So I guess that's the biggest thing here, is just to understand reality, and realize it is all a choice. And the old adage I mentioned before, seek and ye shall find, is probably something people need to take seriously. Go out there and find out what the truth is. Don't believe all this stuff I just said. You can believe that the website is there. You can go buy the book. But I wouldn't take what this guy says is Ra, whatever Ra is. And Ra is mentioned by many channelers in ancient hieroglyphics. I could pull out my book on Egypt and show you all these hieroglyphics and statues and stuff to Ra. Thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle reporting.